And welcome back to quicktechie.com. So today our focus would be on fast MCP server. This session would be a bit longer because we want to not just cover the MCP server, we will also show you how this MCP server being utilized in Claude Agentic AI call. So we'll go very granular level step by step on this. So actually there are three things which is involved. One is your MCP server itself. You assume it is MCP server. This is your client, and this is your Python code. In this example we'll say that. Later we will see what should be the client here. Okay, so this is the client here. Then this is your Claude, which is would be used. So here, and then user obviously passing their own query. So user will send the query to this, and this client will use the Claude, and Claude will using both client and Claude, using both together will find the MCP server, what services are provided by MCP server. So let's first build our own MCP server here. Okay, so this two fast MCP server we will be using, which is provided by Claude, and this already take care of RCP, remote procedure call, sorry, RPC, internally. So you don't have to manage all entire network related calls and everything. Assume it we want to give the name to our MCP server as well. So here the name of the MCP server will be enterprise operations. So this MCP server is mainly for validating enterprise level operation services, which is DevOps, which you want to deploy your services and you want to do audit before deploying, or in between in your pipeline you want to put this some validation layer. So that is what will be used. Once we discuss about client and other stuff, then you will know more. So let's first understand the MCP server. So MCP server first has a, this is the, this is a simulation which we have created. Ideally this may not be the generally this is not the approach we have. We have our documentation stored somewhere, actual physical documents, correct, which is it can be, but here we are saying authentication flow is just a dictionary, simple. And for the documentation for this, all microservices must be validated whether they are using gwt tokens or not using central. Similarly, db schema, the user table contains uid, email id and credit. So this is just a static documentation we are creating it. So this can be in a different way also we can present it, but right now let's keep this way only. Now MCP resource. So there are three things which you need to remember. One is in when you define MCP server, if you create or your organization create your own MCP server. So you define MCP resources, then MCP tool you would define, and then third is MCP prompt you would be defined. These are the three things you would be defining. This is very small MCP server. Generally the MCP servers are pretty large. When you have hundreds of tools defined, then MCP server would be like this. Okay, so still the size and everything you need to optimize it, correct. So MCP resource, so this is what the define a resource using the decorator. So decorator is normal Python functions, correct. And resource provide read only context to the client. The URI template like this, you would provide doc id as an input and acts as an address for the data. So these are the generally it is used for the static resources. Okay, and this is the definition. If you see the architecture document using this UUID, you pass it and then you would get it back. So validate the parameter. If document ID does not exist in my list of the documents, which dictionary we created, raise error. This document ID is not found in the our architecture database. Otherwise, we will return the actual documentation if we find it, and we will return from this. So this is what you will see. So how this would be used? Docs.architecture dot your doc id, which is auth flow or something that would be. So when we see the actual example, correct, so that as a client side, then you will more understand that. So just now if you don't understand, then don't worry about that. For now let's move on. The similarly tool you have to define. Now from our previous session you understand what exactly the tools are, correct. So here the tool name is validate deployment. Okay, and the description of the tool, you remember, validate a deployment payload against the enterprise rules. So any payload you are deploying or your microservice you are deploying, so for that it want to validate it. So then the name of the functions, and what are the definition? Validate deployment definition here is the name of the service. Okay, so fields here is basically a tool from Pydantic library that tells. So if you go on top, so this is what the fields we have exported from the Pydantic library. which tells the AI exactly what your function's inputs are. It acts as a documentation for the AI. So let's go here. In the validate deployment, this fields tells us clearly what is the data type. First thing, correct? Here, one is a string data type, service name, and replica count is an integer data type. So that is where this is an important thing. This is crucial because the AI is nav. This tells the AI when you use this tool, make sure you provide a string for the service name and an integer for the replica count. Okay, so this is how. Now next is the replica count is less than 3. This is an, so now you have defined the function and return value the string. If replica count is less than 3, you would return a JSON dump, which is you will say, okay, if it is less than 3, that it means it is a rejected, validation failed. And reason, high availability requires at least 3 replicas for your service. So that is what this function. Now, if it is other than more than 3, correct, or 3 or more than 3, then it would say it is approved in a pipeline. Okay, you can go ahead, and this is the service name and this is the replica count. You can go ahead. So this is the response would be returned by the validation validate deployment function. So this is now tool. Now let's talk about the prompt. This define a prompt template. Prompts provide a structured starting point for complex workflows. So generally, if your MCP server support, what kind of prompt should be supported or kind of thing. Template prompt is works as a template for the AI. Instead of typing the same instruction over and over in this MCP server, you save this workflow as a button in the AI interface. It automatically creates a message like, please audit the service, the payment service, and review the docs. This is the documents you need to review as a resources, and then validate the deployment tool. So this automatically, whatever the service name you put as an input, okay, so that here you see this is the service name, like in our case payment service or something, we'll say that, and it find out from our dictionary whether it is exist or not, correct, and then sorry, not find out, it returns that dictionary as an output. So this is role as an user, and this is the template, prompt template would be written. Okay, this would be more clear when we see the actual client example. Okay, so now let me move to the giving you the client example. So this is would be, I have created one client example for our fast MCP server. So let's assume as a user you start the conversation, and suppose the user types audit the payment service deployment. The deployment uses 2 replicas. Please tell me whether it satisfies our enterprise standard or not. So that is what when user, this is in this case we are saying somebody is typing this message, but this you can be automated as well. So this is an input message. Okay, under the Claude client, you would be passing this Claude client using Agent SDK will call this MCP server. Okay, now go to this. This is the client code. Just a simple example. If you see here, so this is our MCP client, which will use our MCP server here. So now MCP server we have stored as a enterprise ops.py file. So this is your MCP server, and you remember we have started our MCP server here. Okay, mcp.run. So by default, MCP server standard IO for local client connection. Assuming we are doing on the local environment. Now, coming back to this, so this is the MCP client we have created for our with our MCP server, and we asynchronously connect with that MCP server. Now, what 3 things we have? We need to first get all the available tools from that MCP server. So in our case, what was the tool available? Validate deployment was the tool available. What are the resources available? So go to the resources. If you see here, these are the resources would be, you would be getting it this as an output. Okay, then third one is prompts. This is what third one will get it. So here you see this validate deployment, resource name is what, architecture doc id. So this is the, and you need to pass the document id, and based on that, now third is an prompts. So what is the prompt here is audit service is the prompt here. So these 3 things you will get it. So name of this would, all 3 you will get it. Now client send user questions to Claude. So this is the question which is on top, you have seen as well. Audit the payment service deployment. The deployment uses 2 replica. Please tell me whether it satisfies our enterprise standards or not. Now what client asks Claude, what it would do this, your response equal to claude.message.create. Your client, actually Python code in that you would write role as a user, and model I'm using Claude 4, and this is the user question, which is this question would go in that. Okay, and what all are the available tools, which we have already find this available tools, correct? And as well as the resources available, we pass to this, okay? And this, so this is now become my agentic loop. You remember that previously we have created. Now tools previously we are defining in same client. Now instead of defining in same client, I'm using MCP server to get the tools, as well as MCP server provides resources as well. So I'm using tools and resources both. Now Claude starts its reasoning internally. Claude thinks something like that. The user wants an audit of his service. I should first understand the enterprise architecture. There is a resource available. Okay, so this resource is like auth flow. It would try to, and it will read it. That Claude will try to read it. Now Claude itself cannot read it, correct? It has to be read by client. So Claude says, please read this document. Claude does not answer yet. Instead, ask the client, please read this resource. Okay, so client is here what your Python code. Client reads the MCP resource. Okay, how it would read, it's a simple again Java, sorry, Python code. This is mcp dot read resource, and it is providing the path to this and print resources. So what is the auth code resource you are reading it? All microservices must validate JWT token via central API gateway. So if you remember, this is what our resources definition here, and it would read this from here. It would say that auth flow should be written here. What is the auth flow? Document is here. In this is a very dummy example, correct? But it's clear the concept. Ideally, it should go and read the policy document from your repository or somewhere and parse it, and entire content you would be returning that. In this case, we want to keep simple text, some lesser text. So we are using very lesser lines here. So now that would be printed here, correct? Server returns that MCP server here. Server means all microservice must validate JW tokens via the central API gateway. So this is what the message would be written. Once this message is written, now Claude again send this message, create another message. Now I have a resource message. Okay. Now Claude 4 is being used. This is the user questions. This is the tool. Uh, Role is tool, and the content is architecture doc, which we have. Okay. So this is what the content it is passing. Role is a tool, and all the available tools we are passing it here. So here this is a role, correct? Tool here is the role, what tool has responded, and this is the response here. Now Claude continues to reasoning as the next step, because you have now sending again to Claude. And good, now I need to verify the deployment rules. I have already have my validation document. There is a tool to validate the deployment. So call it. So who will call it? Again client will call it. Call the tool validate deployment. And what argument it would pass? Service name, payment, and replica count equal to 2. So who provided this? Claude had provided. You name of the service is payment, and the replica count is 2. Now client will use this message, this service name and replica count, and this validate deployment tool would be called. And client side, this is the name of the service, and the replica count would be called. Now MCP server execute this method, validate deployment, and the argument is payment, and this integer argument 2. Now what it returns rejected. Why? If you go here in our code, it had MCP server. This is the definition of this validation deployment, and this would say if replica count is less than 3, then this message would be status as rejected. Reason high availability requires at least 3 replicas. So the same message would be rejected and given. So this is client code gives tools result back to Claude. So this is role user questions. Role is tool. What is the tool have responded? Architecture doc. Another tool has responded validation. Now this is all three sent back to the Claude. And now Claude summarizes your result. Claude now has everything it needs to reply back to user. Architecture review, authentication follows the enterprise standard of validating JWT tokens through the API gateway. So this is passed. But where it is failed? Deployment validation failed. So it is saying reason high availability policy requires at least 3 replicas. So it is also providing recommendation. So it is a summarization message would be created by Claude itself. Increase the replica count from 2 to 3 before the deployment. So this is how you integrate. So MCP servers are now your different department have different MCP servers. You're using third party MCP servers, correct? So this is how you would be owning client code as well as the Claude part from your side. But MCP servers may be owned by somebody else. So the user never sees MCP calls. They only sees this final answer. Okay. Now let's take another example how prompt would be used. So we see the tools is there, resources is there. Now prompts. white prompts it. Now consider a different interaction. The user simply says audit my payment service. Okay, so in this case, it Claude knows like I have a prompt, I have a resources, I have a tools. So based on that, Claude would say use the get prompt service here for because just service name is given, and this is the audit payment service, correct? So based on this definition, if you see here, name is audit service, initiate the standardized service audit workflow. So this is the would be definition. Okay, so here MCP dot get prompt that would be called here. Okay, and to get the prompt, it would provide the input as a service name and the service name. Sorry, the actual which uh, service would be called. So this is the audit service function name. So this is function name you would be calling, and this audit service and service name would be your actual microservice name. This is the payment. Now MCP server returns saying that role is a user. If you see here, role is a user, and please audit the payment service, review the docs, auth flow, resources, and then run the validate deployment tool. So this is what the MCP server will return. And this same message, instead of sending the user's original message, the client start Claude with this prompt. Now it is trying to convert. It's like if user can type anything, correct? And MCP server may not want to translate its own to, because this is not possible even MCP server until and unless they use LLM. So it's a LLM responsibility to using the avail prompt template on MCP server, create a very good message which MCP server can easily understand that. Okay, so now using that, please, this is what the prompt would be created, and this prompt would be passed to the Claude. Please audit the payment service, review this document flow and resources, and then rules, then run the validate deployment tool. So this is what it would be, passing the tools as well as prompt and everything, and then it in return Claude now follows the workflow automatically. It first read the auth flow, then call the validate deployment at client side and produce the audit report. No custom orchestration code is required in the client because the prompt already described the everything here, right? So this is how we simplify the MCP server, your client, and Claude, how three interact with each other to simplify this. So user only ask a natural language question. Claude decide which MCP capabilities are needed, whether tools he want, whether resources it want to use, or prompt it want to use it. The client executes MCP protocol request, read resources, call tool, get prompt on Claude's behalf. Your MCP server runs the Python functions you already implemented, returns the results. So this is how generally the interaction will happen is. So now coming back to our, this is what I want to say that how from where I have taken this example, correct? So if you go to this site interview.quicktechie.com, or you just simply type quicktechie.com, that would redirect here. So this example is taken from the books. Here if you go to books by categories, that is the preferred way, and here and go to the Anthropic Cloud, there are two language in which this book currently available. One is in English and another in Hindi. So if you are native Hindi speaker, then this is the best. It is very fast read for Hindi speaker people. You can download this entire book. It's a 344-page book which is available only on quicktechie.com. Nowhere else this book is available. And similarly, same book is available in English language as well. Okay, go back to this. Sometimes you may face this problem, but you just refresh the page, it would help. And then similarly, English language. Okay, sorry, this is sometimes we face this problem, but this, so this you can download in the PDF format, this entire book. Okay, this is sample 40 page you see here. Just to your review and something, and download full ebook, while you can click here and you can download this book. Similarly, you can go to our video courses here, and under Anthropic you go here. So there are three language trainings right now available in English, Hindi, and Tamil. We are this heavily on concept based training, so you simply click on this, so you will see all the modules available for this training. Here we even provide the transcribe of the training as well. So this is all the modules, and these modules are created specifically for the Claude architecture certification, correct? So if you the certified architect foundation which is Anthropic is conducting, so that is what would help. So you can so hide this topic as well, and you can run in full screen mode as well once you play this, correct? So this is how, and you go to next, click by clicking next button, you can go to the next one. Okay, so this is how you can load it, and you can continue to move this, okay, and watch this training. In case sometime you face problem, video is not playing or internet bandwidth issue or something, we recommend you can download this by clicking on this button. You can download the entire video in MP4 format as well on your machine, and you can play this as well, because sometimes to avoid network issues and kind of thing, right? In addition to that, we for this exam we have a certification simulator as well. You can go here, there are 300 sample questions are available across 3 practice papers. Simply refresh it, sorry for that. So sometimes load is high, so that would happen this. So just simply click on any question paper and it would load that question paper, and you can answer this, sometimes simple questions, sometimes complicated questions, that you can see multiple choice question as well here. So this is how it is, and this is our alumni who have subscribed to our courses. This is what the list you can see here. So this all hands-on session also will upload on this same training session, correct? So you can get more videos and access here. So thanks, I'm stopping now. Thank you for watching.